The baby shower was everything I'd dreamed of. Soft pink and cream balloons floating near the ceiling, sunlight spilling through the living room windows, and the scent of vanilla cupcakes and garden roses filling the air. My best friend Harper had outdone herself, transforming our modest suburban home into something out of a magazine. I sat in the center of it all, my hand resting on my round belly, feeling the tiny flutters of the baby who'd already changed my world. Ethan hovered nearby, smiling that easy smile that had first made me fall for him. Warm, steady, protective. He looked proud, almost glowing as guests congratulated him on soon becoming a father. I remember thinking this was one of those perfect days you wanted to bottle up and keep forever. Every gift unwrapped came with laughter. Every hug carried love. My mom wiped away tears during the toast, saying how she couldn't wait to meet her grandchild. It felt safe, full of joy, like all the pieces of my life had finally fallen into place. Then the front door opened, and the atmosphere shifted. My mother-in-law, Diana, swept in like she owned the air itself. Heels clicking, perfume sharp enough to cut through the scent of frosting. She wore her signature pearls, and a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. The room quieted as if everyone instinctively adjusted to her presence. That was Diana's effect, commanding, magnetic, slightly suffocating. "Sorry I'm late," she said, waving off Harper's offer to take her coat. "You know how traffic is when everyone decides to have babies at the same time." Her words earned polite laughs, but something in her tone made my stomach tighten. She set down her gift, a gleaming silver box with a perfect bow, right beside my chair and gave my belly a perfunctory pat. "Our little miracle," she said. Her use of "our" always grated, but I smiled anyway. Ethan kissed her cheek, visibly relieved she'd shown up. I told myself to breathe, to keep the peace, to not let her energy dampen the day. But even as the laughter resumed, I caught Diana's watchful gaze following me around the room, calculating, assessing. I didn't know it then, but she hadn't come to celebrate. She'd come to claim something. The party had hit its stride. Guests chatting over mimosas, Harper snapping Polaroids, the soft hum of happiness filling every corner. I'd started to relax again, convincing myself that Diana's presence was harmless, that I was imagining the tension. She sat across the room, sipping champagne, smiling just enough to appear gracious. When Harper handed her a glass for the toast, Diana stood, her pearls glinting under the fairy lights. She tapped her glass with the back of her ring, a sharp, metallic sound that cut through the chatter. "Everyone," she began, her voice sweet but commanding, "I just want to say how thrilled I am to welcome this new little life into our family." People turned to listen, smiling, expectant. Ethan stood beside me, his arm brushing mine, his warmth grounding me. Diana looked straight at me, then at him. "And since we're all family," she continued, her smile widening, "we've all agreed. It's only right we name the baby Lila, after my son's first love." The room froze, a single stunned beat of silence. I blinked, convinced I'd misheard her. Lila? My mind tripped over the name, searching for context, for meaning. Then I saw Ethan's face. His expression flickered, shock, guilt, disbelief, all in one breath. My heart sank. He didn't deny it. He didn't say a word. Guests exchanged uneasy glances, their smiles faltering. Harper's camera lowered slowly, her eyes wide. My mother's hand clutched mine under the table, a silent question. I felt heat flood my cheeks as if the walls were closing in. Diana looked pleased, basking in the discomfort like she'd just dropped a bomb and was waiting for the applause. "Lila was such a beautiful soul," she went on, her tone almost nostalgic. "It feels right to honor her this way." Her words hung in the air, heavy and cruel. I stared at Ethan, waiting, begging for him to speak, to shut it down, to say this wasn't real. But he only managed a strained, "Mom, that's," before she cut him off with a smile. "Oh, darling, everyone agrees it's perfect." I felt something inside me crack. The laughter, the decorations, the joy, all of it blurred into a haze. My perfect day had just turned into something I'd never forget for all the wrong reasons. For a moment, I couldn't hear anything. Just the faint ringing in my ears and the thud of my heartbeat. The room, once buzzing with laughter and chatter, now hummed with awkward whispers. My mother gasped beside me, her hand flying to her mouth, eyes darting from Diana to Ethan, then to me. Harper's usually unshakable smile faltered as she looked at the guests, clearly unsure whether to step in or pretend nothing had happened. I forced my lips into a shaky smile, the kind you wear when you're seconds away from falling apart, but determined not to give anyone the satisfaction. "That's a surprise," I managed to say, my voice brittle, floating above the tension. Diana beamed, taking my restraint as approval. "It's lovely, isn't it?" "Lila Carter. It just sings," she said, placing her champagne glass down like she'd announced something noble. I wanted to scream. Instead, I nodded once, too afraid that if I opened my mouth again, I'd sob. My mom reached for my hand under the table, squeezing it tightly, grounding me. I looked toward Ethan, searching for a lifeline, some small defense, a glance, a word, anything. But he stood frozen, his jaw tight, his eyes darting between his mother and me like a man caught between two worlds. That hesitation? God, it stung worse than the announcement itself. "Diana, I don't think," he started, but she waved him off with that dismissive flick of her hand she'd perfected. "Oh, don't be dramatic, sweetheart. It's just a name. Lila was special to all of us. To all of us." The words hit like a slap. Guests shifted uncomfortably, avoiding my eyes, murmuring excuses as they drifted toward the food table. The air had turned heavy, suffocating. I stood abruptly, muttering something about needing water, and escaped to the kitchen. My reflection in the window was pale, eyes glistening, smile gone. I gripped the counter, my knuckles white, breathing through the ache in my chest. This was supposed to be our day, our child, our future. But in a few sentences, Diana had turned it into a shrine for someone I never knew. Someone who still lived in the corners of my husband's silence. When the last guest finally left, the house looked like a battlefield. Torn wrapping paper, half-empty glasses, the faint scent of disappointment hanging in the air. My mother hugged me before she left, whispering, "Don't let her do this to you." I nodded numbly, watching her car taillights disappear before turning back to face Ethan. He was stacking plates like that tiny act of tidying could fix the wreckage his mother left behind. "We need to talk," I said, my voice sharper than I meant. He froze, shoulders tense. "About what?" The question ignited something in me. "About what? About your mother announcing we're naming our child after your ex-girlfriend, Ethan." My voice cracked, anger and humiliation tangled together. He sighed, setting the plates down carefully. "She just got carried away. You know how she is." His calmness was gasoline on fire. "Carried away? She humiliated me, in front of everyone, and you stood there and said nothing." I could feel tears pressing behind my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. He rubbed his forehead, avoiding my gaze. "Lila was someone important. My mom never really got over what happened." I stared at him, confusion colliding with dread. "What happened?" He hesitated, then finally met my eyes. "She died. Senior year of college. Car accident. Mom loved her like her own daughter." His voice softened, grief bleeding through his words, but it didn't ease the sting. "So that makes it okay to name our baby after her?" I asked quietly. He shook his head quickly. "No, of course not. I would never do that without you." "But you didn't stop her either," I shot back. He looked away again, guilt flickering across his face. "I didn't want to make a scene." The irony was almost laughable. The scene had already been made, and I'd been cast as the outsider. The room felt colder then, the warmth of the party replaced by a quiet ache. For the first time since I'd met Ethan, I realized something unsettling. His mother didn't just miss Lila. She'd kept her alive. And somehow, I was the intruder in a story that never ended. That night, sleep doesn't come. The house feels different. Quiet, heavy, like the walls are holding their breath. Ethan fell asleep hours ago, his back turned to me, his breathing even. I lie there staring at the ceiling, my mind replaying every second of the baby shower until the scene blurs into a loop I can't escape. Lila. The name echoes in my head, sharp and soft all at once, like a whisper I can't shut out. I reach for my phone, the glow of the screen cutting through the dark. I shouldn't, but I do. I type her name into the search bar. Lila West. The results flood in instantly. Old college photos, tagged memories, tributes posted after her accident. In one, she's laughing, wind in her hair, Ethan's arm draped around her shoulders. They look so young, so in love. My stomach twists. There's one photo captioned, "Forever in our hearts." The comments below are filled with people remembering her kindness, her smile, her spark. I scroll until my chest aches. She was beautiful, bright, golden, the kind of person people write songs about. I set the phone down, staring at the faint reflection of my own tired face in the screen. I start wondering if Ethan ever looks her up too, if he still dreams about her. A cruel thought slips in. Maybe I was just the safe choice, the woman who came after the tragedy, not because he wanted me, but because I was there. I glance at him sleeping, his brow furrowed even in rest, and for a flicker of a moment, I pity him. Losing someone young like that, it scars you. But then I remember his silence at the shower, the way he let his mother drag that ghost into our child's life. The pity fades, replaced by something colder. I pull the blanket tighter, turning away from him, eyes wide open in the dark. There's a presence between us now, invisible but undeniable. A woman who isn't here, yet somehow still part of our marriage. I feel it in every unspoken word, every hesitant touch. Lila isn't gone. She's just taken another form, one that's slowly erasing me. The first visit comes 3 days later. I'm on the couch, half watching a baby name documentary on TV, trying to distract myself when the doorbell rings. I expect a delivery. Instead, it's Diana, standing there with a bright smile and a pink gift bag in her hands. "Surprise," she says, stepping inside before I can answer. "I was in the neighborhood." She never just happens to be in the neighborhood. She sweeps past me like she owns the place, her perfume trailing behind her. "I brought something special for the baby," she says, handing me the bag. I peek inside, soft onesies, delicate booties, and a tiny blanket, all white with pink embroidery. The name stitched across the front makes my throat tighten. Lila. I blink, forcing a polite smile. "It's lovely," I manage, though the word tastes sour. She beams, clearly pleased. "I thought it would honor her memory. Ethan adored her, you know. Such a loss." I can feel my pulse in my temples. "Diana, I appreciate the thought," I say carefully, "but we haven't decided on a name yet." She waves her hand dismissively. Oh, you will. It's fate, sweetheart. Lila would have been such a wonderful mother. It feels right, doesn't it? Her tone is gentle but firm, the kind that expects agreement, not discussion. I grip the edge of the couch cushion, nails digging into the fabric. This baby isn't a replacement for anyone, I say, quieter than I mean to. Her smile falters for just a second before snapping back. Of course not, dear. I'm only saying she'd be proud. Proud? Of what? Me carrying a child she never knew? I want to scream, but I don't. I just nod. My stomach knotted so tightly it hurts. When she finally leaves, I fold the blanket, tucking it deep into the back of the nursery closet. But even after it's hidden, I can still see it. Those pink letters, bold and perfect, spelling out a name that doesn't belong to my child. By the next morning, the air between Ethan and me feels sharp enough to cut through. I sit at the kitchen table with a mug of tea gone cold, staring at the baby shower photos Harper dropped off, the ones still sealed in their envelope. I can't bring myself to look at them. They're just reminders now, frozen smiles from the moment before everything fell apart. Ethan walks in, running a hand through his hair, looking exhausted. We need to talk, I say. He exhales, cautious, already on edge. About my mom? I nod. About how disrespectful she's being. My voice shakes, but I don't soften it. Ethan, she brought baby clothes embroidered with Lila's name. Do you not see how wrong that is? He winces. She means well. She's grieving, that's all. Grieving? I shoot back. For a woman who died over a decade ago, while I'm the one carrying your child? His silence is my answer. He leans against the counter, crossing his arms, looking more defensive than sorry. You're reading too much into this, he says, voice low. She's not trying to hurt you. She already has, I whisper, and you're letting her. He looks away, jaw tightening, the muscle there pulsing like he's holding something back. I want him to fight for me, for us. But all I get is a tired sigh. Can't we just focus on the baby? He says, and it feels like a door slamming shut between us. I stare at the unopened envelope on the counter, Harper's neat handwriting labeling it baby shower memories. The irony burns. Those pictures were supposed to capture joy, not humiliation. Now they just sit there, untouched, a silent monument to everything that's changed. I push them aside and stand, my voice quieter now but steady. You can't fix this by pretending it's not happening. He doesn't answer, just watches as I walk out of the kitchen. That night, we sleep on opposite sides of the bed, backs turned, breaths uneven. The distance feels wider than ever. Between us lies more than silence. There's her name, her ghost, her mother's shadow, and it's growing stronger by the day. 2 days later, I get a text from an unknown number. Hi, it's Grace. Can we talk? I hesitate before replying. Grace, Ethan's younger sister, lives 2 hours away and usually keeps her distance from family drama. But that message feels different. Urgent. We meet at a small cafe near my office, the kind with chipped mugs and real sugar packets. She's already there when I arrive, her expression careful but kind. Thank you for coming, she says, stirring her coffee. I needed to tell you something. I sit across from her, wary but curious. She glances around before lowering her voice. I'm sorry for what my mom did at the shower. That wasn't fair to you. The words hit harder than I expect. It's the first apology from anyone in Ethan's family. I appreciate that, I say quietly. Grace sighs, her shoulders slumping. Mom hasn't really accepted your marriage. She pretends she has, but she hasn't. In her mind, Lila was perfect, Beautiful, smart, sweet. The one that got away. Or the one fate took away. I frown. What does that mean? Grace hesitates. After Lila died, Mom blamed herself. She saw her as family. She told everyone Lila and Ethan were meant to be. When he met you, Mom said it felt wrong, like he was replacing her. My stomach tightens. Grace's voice softens. She's not just reminiscing. She's trying to keep Lila alive. Through you, through your baby. Naming your child after her isn't about honoring the past. It's about controlling the future. I stare at my cup, the steam curling into the air like smoke. Ethan doesn't see it, I murmur. He just thinks she's sentimental. Grace shakes her head. He's blinded by guilt. He doesn't want to hurt her, but he's hurting you instead. Her words land heavy, undeniable. She reaches across the table, touching my hand. You don't owe my mother anything. Protect your baby. Don't let her rewrite your story. My throat tightens as I nod. For the first time in weeks, I feel less alone. Grace squeezes my hand once more, her eyes steady. Mom's never met someone who stands their ground, she says. Maybe it's time she did. I asked Diana to meet me at a cafe on Main Street, a neutral place, public enough to keep things civil. I told myself this wasn't about confrontation. It was about clarity, about drawing a line. The air was cool that morning, the kind of day that smelled faintly of rain and fresh coffee. She arrived 10 minutes late, as always, wearing her pearls and that same polite smile that masked everything sharp underneath. You look tired, she said, sliding into the chair across from me. Pregnancy will do that. I ignored the jab and took a breath. I wanted to talk about the name situation. Her smile didn't falter. Oh, sweetheart, still on that? She said, waving a manicured hand. You'll come around. My pulse quickened. No, I won't. This is my child, and I'm not naming her after Ethan's ex. It's disrespectful. To me, to our marriage. Diana tilted her head, feigning pity. You don't understand. It's not disrespectful. It's remembrance. Lila was part of Ethan's life, part of ours. She deserves to be honored. By hijacking my baby's name, I shot back. My voice trembled, but I didn't lower it. She leaned in, her expression softening in a way that felt rehearsed. You wouldn't even have Ethan if Lila hadn't died, she said gently, almost kindly. The words hit like a slap. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. She stirred her coffee, completely unbothered, while my world tilted. What did you just say? I whispered. I mean, she said with a sigh, her death broke him. It changed him. Without that, you wouldn't be here. So really, naming the baby after her, it's the least you can do. The least I could do. The audacity of it rattled through me. I pushed my chair back, my legs shaky but firm. You're wrong, I said quietly. This child is mine and Ethan's. Not yours, not hers. And you don't get to define her before she's even born. She blinked, surprised by my tone, but didn't stop me as I grabbed my purse and walked out. My hands trembled all the way to the car, my throat tight with 1,000 unsaid words. But beneath the anger, there was something steadier, a clarity I hadn't felt in weeks. She'd shown me exactly who she was, and now I knew what I had to do. She could cling to her ghosts all she wanted. I was done letting them haunt my future. By the time Ethan came home that evening, I'd made up my mind. The house was quiet, the lights dim. My overnight bag sat open on the bed, half packed with essentials. Nothing dramatic, just enough to say I was serious. He walked in, his tie loosened, looking tired. What's going on? He asked, confusion flickering across his face. Where are you going? I zipped the bag slowly, steadying my voice. somewhere I can breathe. His brow furrowed. Is this about Mom again? That word, again, made my chest tighten. Ethan, this isn't about your mother. It's about us. About the fact that she's trying to name our daughter after someone you loved before me, and you keep pretending it's okay. He rubbed his temples. She doesn't mean harm. Stop saying that, I snapped, the anger finally spilling over. She does. Maybe not in the way you think, but she's hurting me, and you're letting her. He froze, his eyes wide. I took a deep breath, my voice cracking. I can't raise our child in a house where your ex's name is worshipped, where I feel like a placeholder instead of a partner. Silence stretched between us, long and heavy. His shoulders sagged, the weight of realization settling in. You really think that's what I've done? He asked softly. I don't have to think it, I said. I feel it. Every day you stay quiet, you choose her side. He looked down, his voice low. You're right. I blinked, startled by the honesty. He stepped closer, running a hand through his hair. I've been afraid to upset her, afraid to deal with what losing Lila did to both of us. But I didn't see what that silence was doing to you. I swallowed hard, the anger giving way to exhaustion. I can't keep fighting alone, Ethan. He nodded slowly, eyes glistening. You won't have to. For the first time, I saw it. The break in him, the part that finally understood. He reached for the bag, his voice firm. You're not going anywhere. I'll talk to her. No more ghosts. His words hung there, fragile but real. For the first time in months, I believed him. Ethan kept his promise. The next afternoon, he drove to his mother's house alone. I watched from the window as he backed out of the driveway, hands gripping the wheel like he was bracing for impact. I didn't ask him to go, but I knew he needed to. This was something only he could do, something long overdue. Hours later, he told me how it went. The moment he walked into her sunlit kitchen, she'd been waiting, as if she knew he was coming. Her pearls glinted under the light, her eyes cold behind the performance of concern. Ethan, she'd said, setting down her teacup. What's this nonsense I hear about your wife storming out of cafes and refusing family names? He didn't answer right away, just leaned against the counter, the same one where he'd probably done homework as a kid. Mom, we need to talk, he said quietly. She sighed, weary, the martyr act already starting. If this is about Lila again, it's about boundaries, he cut in. She blinked, startled by his tone. Mom, you crossed a line. The baby's name isn't up for discussion. It's ours to choose, mine and hers. For a moment, she just stared, as if she hadn't heard him right. Then her expression hardened. She's poisoning you against me, she snapped. I'm your mother. That woman has you turning your back on family. Her voice rose, sharp and trembling. You think she loves you more than I do? You think she'll stay when things get hard? She's manipulating you, Ethan. He took a step closer, steady but firm. Mom, stop. His voice didn't waver. My wife hasn't turned me against anyone. You did that yourself. You've been holding on to the past like it's sacred, and I let you. But I'm done. Tears welled in her eyes, but he didn't flinch. Mom, he said, his voice softening but not breaking. My wife and child are my family now. You can be part of that, or you can keep living in the past, but you can't have it both ways. The words hung between them, heavy, final. Her tears spilled, her mask slipping into raw fury. You've changed, she hissed, voice cracking. You used to listen to me. He turned toward the door. I'm listening now, he said, just not to the lies anymore. She followed him to the porch, still pleading, but when he got in the car and drove away, She was left standing there, shaking, the illusion of control finally gone. He came home that evening, quiet but lighter, like a man who'd finally exhaled after years of holding his breath. The weeks that followed felt like a slow thaw after a long winter. The house, once tense and filled with silence, began to breathe again. Ethan and I started seeing a counselor, someone who helped us unpack the layers between us, the grief he'd never faced, the resentment I'd buried too deep. Our sessions weren't easy. Sometimes they hurt, but each one peeled away something heavy that had been sitting on our marriage for years. One afternoon, after a session, we stopped by a baby store downtown. The aisles were lined with cribs, plush toys, tiny shoes, the quiet hum of new beginnings. Ethan held up a little blanket and smiled, the first real smile I'd seen in weeks. "What about this one?" he asked. The embroidery read Journey. The word lingered between us, simple and true. That night we sat at the kitchen table with a notebook, tossing out names. No ghosts, no compromises, just words that felt like us. "How about Clara?" I suggested. "It means bright, clear." He nodded, scribbling it down, then added another. "Elise. It means promise." We circled the names, smiling. They weren't tied to loss. They were ours, rooted in growth, in healing. The baby kicked then, as if approving. For the first time since the shower, laughter filled the house again. We painted the nursery soft cream with gold accents, Ethan humming while I read out baby books. When I found the old embroidered lilac blanket tucked deep in the closet, I didn't cry. I just folded it neatly, slipped it into a donation box, and closed the lid. The act felt like releasing something heavy I'd carried too long. Every night, Ethan would rest his hand on my belly and whisper stories about the future, our future. I could hear the change in his voice, softer, grounded, fully present. The distance that once defined our marriage was gone, replaced by quiet understanding. We weren't perfect, but we were whole. And as the due date neared, I realized something profound. This baby wasn't just a new life. She was our second chance. It's a calm Saturday morning when my phone buzzes on the nightstand. The sunlight is streaming through the curtains, and for once, the air feels peaceful. Ethan's in the kitchen making pancakes, humming softly to the radio, and I can smell the faint sweetness of syrup drifting down the hall. I smile, small, content. Then I see the message. It's from Grace. "You should know Mom's been talking again." It begins. My chest tightens before I even finish reading. She's telling people you stole Ethan from her, that you're trying to erase Lila's memory. My thumb hovers over the screen, heat rising in my face. I read it twice just to make sure I'm not imagining it. Even after everything, after Ethan stood up to her, after months of silence, Diana still can't let go. She's rewriting the story again, twisting me into the villain she needs me to be. My heart thuds with equal parts anger and exhaustion. Grace adds another line. "I told her to stop, but she won't listen. She's lost most of her friends over this. Just thought you should know." I sit there staring at the message, my pulse loud in my ears. Ethan walks in holding a plate of pancakes, his face soft and warm. "What's wrong?" he asks immediately. I hand him my phone, the words still glowing on the screen. He reads them slowly, then exhales, setting the phone on the counter. "Of course she is," he says quietly. "She's clinging to a story because she doesn't know how to face the truth." "It's still hurtful," I whisper. "People will think—" He cuts me off gently. "Let them think what they want. We know our truth." His voice is calm, steady, so sure that it disarms me. For a long time, his reassurance would have sounded like avoidance, but now it feels different. rooted, certain. I nod, feeling a weight lift from my chest. You really believe that? I ask. He smiles, brushing a strand of hair from my face. I do, and I believe in us. I rest my hand on my belly, rounder now, firm and alive beneath my touch. And I realize that I do too. Let Diana talk. Let her drown in her own bitterness. I'm done carrying her ghosts. This family, this love, this child, it's ours. And no one can twist that truth anymore. The contractions start just after midnight. Sharp, insistent waves that make me grip the edge of the nightstand. Ethan wakes instantly, his hand finding mine, eyes wide but calm. It's time, I whisper, breathless. The drive to the hospital blurs into flashes of city lights and shallow breaths. Hours pass in fragments, nurses moving swiftly, the rhythmic beeping of monitors, the soft encouragement in Ethan's voice beside me. Every push feels endless, every moment stretching into forever. Then, at dawn, through the ache and sweat and tears, a cry fills the room. It's sharp and beautiful, a sound that splits the air and mends it all at once. Ethan squeezes my hand, his eyes shining as the nurse places our daughter in my arms. She's tiny, pink-faced, her fist curling around my finger like she's already claiming her place in this world. I can barely breathe from the wonder of it. She's perfect, Ethan whispers, voice breaking. I nod, tears spilling freely now, the kind that cleanse more than they sting. The nurse smiles softly. Do we have a name for her? Ethan looks at me, and in that glance, everything unspoken between us comes full circle. All the pain, the healing, the promises. He leans close, his voice steady and certain. Hope Elise Carter, he says. The name floats through the room like a benediction. Hope, because she's proof that broken things can heal. Elise, because promise belongs to new beginnings. Not Lila, not a ghost. Not the shadow of someone who came before me. Just our daughter, alive, real, and wholly ours. The nurse writes it down, smiling as she tucks the form into a folder. Ethan presses a kiss to my forehead, his hand resting on our daughter's back. Welcome home, Hope, he whispers. The morning light filters through the blinds, golden and soft, washing over us. In that moment, I feel the past fall away completely. The grief, the fear, the old names, they don't live here anymore. What's left is something pure and quiet, built on love that's been tested and remade. As I cradle her, I know this is the start of something new. A name not born from pain, but from peace. A beginning. It's been 6 months since Hope was born, and our house finally feels like home again. Not just a place with walls and furniture, but a space filled with warmth, laughter, and quiet understanding. The nights are long. Feedings, diaper changes, lullabies whispered in half sleep, but I wouldn't trade a second of it. Sometimes I catch Ethan standing over her crib, just watching her breathe, a faint smile softening his face. The man who once hid behind silence now hums her to sleep, tells her stories about the world she'll grow into, and kisses my forehead like a promise he intends to keep. Diana still keeps her distance. She sent a single card after the birth, a white envelope with no return address, just 2 words written inside. Congratulations. D. No phone calls, no surprise visits, no embroidered blankets. Just silence. And for the first time, her silence feels like peace. I used to crave her approval, used to believe that harmony meant keeping quiet and giving in. But somewhere between the baby shower and this new life, I learned the difference between keeping peace and protecting it. The first costs you your voice. The second gives it back. On quiet afternoons, When Hope naps in her bassinet and sunlight spills across the living room, I find myself writing again, something I hadn't done in years. Words come easier now, maybe because I'm no longer trying to please anyone but myself. I write about motherhood, about healing, about finding strength in the moments you feel most invisible. And one line keeps echoing in my mind, finding its way onto the page every time I start over. Family isn't who names your child. It's who protects their peace. That's what I've learned. That love isn't measured in approval or old memories. It's in action. In the people who choose you, who stand beside you when the world tries to pull you apart. I look at Ethan and see a man who finally chose to stand, not in the shadow of the past, but in the light of what we built together. And I look at Hope, her tiny fingers curling around mine, and I feel something I've never felt before. Freedom. To anyone listening, I'll say this: don't let others write your story. Don't let their ghost decide your future. Stand up for the life you're building, even if your voice shakes the first time you use it. One day, it won't. This story was intense, but this story on the right-hand side is even more insane.